Hello and welcome. I'm here in the historic setting of Berry Brothers and Rudd, the historic London wine merchant, with the FT's wine writer and master of wine, Jancis Robertson. Now, Jancis is just back from Bordeaux, where she's been sampling the latest 2010 vintage, and she's here to tell us about what she's found out. So, to start with, the chateaux have said that the 2005, 2009 and now 2010 are the vintage of the decade. They can't all be right. Please explain.
Well, they were pretty keen on the 2000s as well. And it's true that 2000, 2005, 2009, 2010 were all vintages that produced some really stunning wines, excellent wines. And when you compare the frequency of the success of those vintages with what used to happen in the previous century, you have to ask yourself, taking a kind of macro view, whether climate change isn't playing a part here. All of those years benefited from particularly warm, dry summers, which really helps to create good quality wine. And so it's quite possible that next decade we'll see even greater frequency of top quality vintages. And in fact, the 2011 growing season is looking exceptionally early. Everything's way ahead of itself, and early vintages are usually good vintages. So could end up having 3 really good vintages on the trot.
And what's that doing to prices? Because 2010, we thought that the prices were going to go up, but we're not seeing very large volumes shifting at the moment.
That's true. 2009, well, when 2005s came on the market, we all thought, these prices are ridiculous, no one's going to pay those, and they did. There was a correction in 2008, and the prices went down because everyone was feeling a bit poor, and the vintage wasn't as great. 2009 prices massively increased and they sold like hotcakes, and the market had expanded considerably. 2010, it is a very good vintage, completely different to 2009, much more classical, less voluptuous and round and opulent. But the market is saying, hang on, we spent a fortune on our wine cellars last year. We're just not ready to part with another whole load of cash. There were also a lot of people buying for investment only, and a lot of people selling that line that they would make a financial killing, which they certainly haven't, because the prices of the 2009s have remained pretty obstinately static over the last year, which is again dissuading people from buying the 2010s so early. Why buy them now if they're not going to go up in price?
And how important is the Chinese investor to that market?
The Chinese and if you like, the spectre of as well as the reality of the Chinese market has been a huge driver, and it's giving the Bordelais the confidence to increase the prices of their wine so substantially, even in 2010. But so far, it's really only been a handful of the properties that have so far come out that have sold out and sold easily.
So is this a sustainable market, or is there what we could describe as a Bordeaux bubble brewing, do you think?
That is the million-dollar question. I think the fact that with wine there's only a finite amount produced, there's no production line with wine, so they don't actually have to find all that many customers to get rid of their wine. They also have a history of a very potentially a long distribution chain, whereby a lot of them are just releasing very small tranches at the very beginning, seeing whether the market likes it, and then if their ideal situation, of course, is the market does, and then they release more at a higher price. I think they look at the numbers in China. They look at how the demand for wine in China has been exploding, and it is difficult to see that it's all going to suddenly implode and prices are going to tumble. But I think the speed of getting the wine from the chateau onto somebody's table is definitely going to slow down.
So we're not going to see the price crash like a dropped tray of wine glasses?
Oh no! Well, I'm afraid I see myself primarily as a consumer, and I would love to see that, but I can't see it really, particularly since all of the market-leading properties are owned by people with very, very deep pockets, and they've earned so much money over the last few years. I mean, production costs of these wines are minuscule. I mean, they are such a tiny proportion of the selling price. I suppose it's like the perfume industry or something like that.
Okay, so for our canny investor and also our quaffing consumer on ft.com, what are the recommendations you would make?
I feel much more in tune personally with the consumer than the investor, and for me personally, it's rather sad that wine has become this investment commodity. I keep wanting to sort of shriek, "It's for drinking!"
Yes.
whenever I read about these things, and see a sort of new graph of just what happens to fine wine prices. For the investor, I suppose the cleverest thing is just to seize on one of a handful of most sought after wines, not the first growths I don't think, but some of the super seconds and much loved ones just below that, the minute they come out, and you've got to pounce the minute they do, because prices are likely to go up of those, but they're just a handful. But as for the consumer, I nearly said drinker, there are just so many good buys in Bordeaux. Particularly in 2010, it made lovely wines, particularly on the left bank, wines that have, say, Appellation Médoc. And you can find easy drinking wines, so really top quality, easily for, just over £100 a dozen. And even names sort of like Gloria, Chateau Gloria, I think, has come out recently at 300 and something a case. I thought that was a lovely wine. Orme de Pez, another very good 2010. Senejac. There's even a little wine on the other side of the river near Pomerol, which is made by the very talented winemaker at Église Clinée, called La Chénade, which is a Lalande de Pomerol. All of those selling in low three-digit figures per dozen, and give you an awful lot of pleasure, even if they're never going to feature, in a sale room in Hong Kong.
Fantastic. Well, Jancis, thank you very much for speaking to us. You can read more about this subject on the FT's website. Just click on ft.com/wine 2011. And if you like the sound of Jancis's wine recommendations, she does a column for us every weekend in FT Weekend. And you can also find a selection of her past writings on ft.com/arts. Thank you very much.